Hello everybody, how y'all doing today? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm a little congested. We have another windstorm coming in. I think the winds are, from what I read, winds are supposed to be even higher with this one than what it was with the last one. Oh, I know. I am just so not looking forward to that. Yeah, I was gonna see about going walking over to the store to see about getting a little bit more groceries. Fortunately, I do have my food stamps. It's not much; it's only $100, but I might have to dip into the other little bit of money I have to pay for delivery fee. Yeah, or maybe taking a ride share, Uber, what I always used to do. So I have gotten a little bit of a donation, or a little bit of donations. I am looking into possibly renting a car for a day or two. There is an option that Uber does have for that, but I think I might have enough money now where I might be able to do that. With doing the math, with getting a regular job, state minimum wage here is $12 an hour, and part time. If you know anything about working retail, I wouldn't be able to necessarily work in restaurants. With one of the requirements here, I don't know if it's strictly Clark County or if it's a statewide thing. I know that there's a Nevada revised statute regarding it, but basically, if you are doing food handling, like in a restaurant, nothing prepackaged, according to what I've read. But as far as any sort of food handling, like a restaurant, or basically if you're going to be in direct contact with food, like food preparation, grocery store, as far as, produce, in a deli or bakery or something like that, those sorts of situations. You have to go through food handler training and get what is called a health card. So, and of course that takes time, and spacing is limited as far as, there's the resource where you can study ahead of time, but you have to make an appointment to get it, to take a test. And this is just something that I had researched just yesterday. And I know when I first moved here, I had to get a food handler, or excuse me, a health card. But that was 20 years ago. So I would be considered to be a first timer. So as far as doing a renewal is concerned, I don't think that's an option. I'd have to go through it all over again because, my the cards last for 3 years after that, and especially since it's been 17 years. So yeah, I would have to see about getting regular retail. But anyway, with what I was saying, excuse me, as far as that is concerned, if you're, especially with being straight out the door, if I'm able to secure even 20 hours a week with one job at $12 an hour, that's only 240 hours. I mean, $240, and then on top of it, even if I worked two jobs, that's only $480. My rent, and that's before taxes. And then my rent is $385 a week. And as far as getting someplace cheaper, I know that there's not too many options, if any, out there. About the only other option would maybe be Catholic Charities, which I know is really, really cheap, but spacing is limited. And to tell you the truth, with where they're located, as far as their housing is concerned, the rental options that they have, I would need to be able to secure employment there, around their area, instead of where I'm at, because I'm kind of on the other side of town. So, especially if I'm going to be trying to find something within walking distance, and there's really nothing there around them as far as walking distance is concerned. And I mean nothing. So, either way, and then on top of it, of course, usually, you're waiting 2 weeks to be able to get a paycheck. To at least 2 weeks. If they pay weekly, then it's 2 weeks. If it's bi-weekly, then you're waiting 3 weeks, and yeah, all of that combined, And of course, they can't work you any more than 30 hours because then you're considered to be full time. So, it doesn't leave very many options. And the whole point of doing the ride sharing or deliveries is you can jump on, bam, you can get money at least rolling, So, anywho, yeah, that was I think I have enough money together now where I can at least rent a car for one day. It's expensive after all everything is said and done. And of course, with where the car is, I'm going to have to get a ride, take an Uber to and from, which of course dips it, by the time everything is said and done. So that's one of the reasons why I keep harping, hey, look, if you can help, please. At least it helps get me back to work, so I can, see about getting the money together with the relocation. Yes, I have a cute little girl here. Yeah. She is. She's being a cutie big time today. She was even playing earlier, which really was awesome. So, but yeah, I think I'm at least for one day, possibly 2 days, where I could see about renting a car. I'm not entirely too sure because we're looking at 50, 60 mile per hour winds. And I'm not entirely too sure if it would be a good idea for me to try and go out in that on a day like today or not. Even with wearing, I do have some KN, what are they? The KN95 masks. Anyway, they're supposed to, filter. I'm like, what's that word I'm trying to think of? The filter out like 95% of allergens and so forth. But when those high winds kick in, yeah, it's pretty intense, especially when winds like that. Kind of like what you see in movies, like out at the Sahara, when you see those walls of dust and sand come at you. Same thing. Yeah, that's what we deal with here with that. And same circumstances where sometimes when we get high winds like that and they blow through, there are times where you might wind up in pockets or something where it's just a blowout and you can't see the car in front of you or whatever. So, and just, imagine that and trying to breathe in it at the same time, especially when you have breathing difficulties. Yeah, not a good situation. And I've been in those situations. It's not fun. So, I did do some research. At least my head is finally clearing up. That was something else I was going to mention. I had been watching this one docu-series put out by the Smithsonian Channel. It's up on Paramount Plus, in case you're interested in watching it. It's I think it's called America's Secrets or something like that. Anyway, if you're up on P Plus, it's the Statue of Liberty going like this. Okay, that's the promo picture that they have anyway. So anyway, I'm on season 1 right now, and there's episode 3. I highly recommend watching that. Season 1 was put out March of 2019. Okay, that's very significant with what I'm about to tell you, because episode 3 talks about the Spanish flu. And it was really funny because they're at the end of the episode, they were like, oh yeah, as far as a super bug is concerned, if you remember that sort of terminology, they do reference, as far as anything more recent is concerned, they reference SARS, but keep in mind, this is March 2019. What happened shortly after that? Yeah. So within a year, actually less than a year, we wound up with COVID. But it was so funny because there at the end, they were talking with the CDC, and they were like, that won't happen because oh, excuse me, because we have vaccinations now and so on and so forth, and it's like, yeah, what happened less than a year later? COVID. I couldn't help but laugh at that. At least it gave me something to laugh at. It's like, yeah, don't put your own foot in your mouth, in other words. So, anyway, the reason why I bring up that episode, and especially with mentioning what I've been going through, with my head, because when I get these flare-ups and so forth, let's face it, you're not able to get as much oxygen, and it leads to confusion. You're not getting as much oxygen in your brain, and then it leads to confusion. And I do get very confused, irritable, all those negative aspects, and it's battles some depression and so forth too, and it's understandable. But then, of course, when I start feeling better, it's like, oh, my head, it's like a fog lifts, and it's just like, oh, I can see the light of day again, And I get energized, and I just want to start bouncing off the walls, wanting to do things, this and that, and so on and so forth, right? But the reason why I mentioned that episode with them talking about the Spanish flu, and they do go into explain why it was called the Spanish flu, because they actually think that it started in Kansas. But anyway, I'll let you all find that out. But they mentioned that after the reason, of course, the reason why it was able to spread so well was because of the war, World War One that was going on at the time, and it was being basically spread through the soldiers. Anyway, after the war was done, and they, the armistice was basically the surrender was discussed. Was signed on November 11th, 1918. Yeah, my birthday, November 11th. Okay. But the actual treaty wasn't discussed until about 6 months later, basically the following spring. And it was being discussed there at Versailles in France. And while there, Woodrow Wilson came down ill. The official that was put out was that he had a mild cold. However, according to his doctor's records, he had Spanish flu. So, of course, he survived. And afterwards, and this is where it really got interesting for me, is that according to his doctor's records and personal accounts, people that he knew, like his wife and so on and so forth, they all said that they noticed a huge personality change. He would get confused, hello, battled depression, hello, became irritable very, very easily, hello, yeah, all those things, especially when they mentioned the confusion, and here I am watching it, and I'm completely, in a fog, confused about everything, trying to do the best I can to keep my, head in line and so forth. Because, of course, now I've lived with this for a couple of years, so I've kind of gotten used to it and know what to expect and try and help circumvent as best I can, or at least deal with it best I can. So, yeah, I found that to be very poignant. I was just like, wow, that explains a lot. So, and also the thing that they mentioned, I knew he had had a stroke at one point, but, I didn't really, I haven't never really researched his presidency or anything, or him or anything. So, I found it very interesting. Actually, he had the stroke a year later. And one of the things that was an after effect of Spanish flu was possible cardiac issues. And that's the reason why he had the stroke afterwards. And of course, he died after that. And I thought that that was all was very, very interesting. And I can understand why there would be cardiac issues, especially with what I've been dealing with, with the chest pain constantly and so forth. It's like, oh, it was very, watching all of that episode, even though, it's different, from COVID. At the same point, it's very, very similar. Spanish flu was more severe, but with COVID, fortunately, we do have a little bit more medical technology now where we can, help with symptoms and so forth. We have a little bit better of an understanding, but basically, it's the same thing. Where with them, it was basically pneumonia. Their lungs were filling up with fluids and basically suffocating the patients. With us, it's you know what COVID is. But either way, it's basically a lack of oxygen. So I thought that was very, very interesting to watch all of that. It definitely helped with what I'm going through and what the questions that I had to answer for before being accepted into the Mayo Clinic. And I'm just like, okay, this is making a lot more sense now for me. Especially with possible treatments, because one of the things that they had mentioned was possibly fibromyalgia treatments. Not saying that that you have fibromyalgia, but the treatments that could possibly assist in helping to bring relief. So, but anyway, so yeah, I've been doing my research. I did find out that there's no waiting period with the state of Minnesota. I can apply as soon as I become a resident, and I also found out that I don't have to have an appointment to go to DMV. Here you do, which can take up to 2 months for you to even get an appointment. But I can just walk in that very day and see about getting an ID or new driver's license. With there it's mailed to you, but at least I would be able to walk in and get that ball rolling. I would be established, and then I can see about applying for Medicaid at that point. And also with the health insurance as well. What else was it that I had researched? I found out that unfortunately my little baby would not be considered a medical support animal as far as flying is concerned. Only dogs are considered to be medical support animals. So I will definitely have to see about paying an extra fee for her to be able to fly, but she'll be able to sit right on my lap, so it's not that big of a deal. Let me see here. I will need a doctor statement still yet for her to be able to fly, just to have on hand just in case. And also I will need to get a doctor statement in order to bring food onto the plane with me. They said that you can, but it's better be safe than sorry, basically, sort of situation as far as my insulin, syringes, and food are concerned, even the cold packs that I would need to have to keep my insulin cold. So, I mean, the open bottles aren't that big of a deal, but I have several unopened bottles. I don't want to get rid of those. Yeah, that's a lot of money that's sitting in there. So I would definitely need to be able to keep those cold throughout the whole time. Um, what else did I find out? As far as the GoFundMe campaign is concerned, getting hit with a lot of scammers. I'm getting a lot of attention from scammers, but anybody else, I'm just not seeing it. But I keep my fingers crossed, keep my hopes up. So if you can, please at least share. So hopefully, maybe it can wind up in the right hands. I did remember to one resource that my mom was always harping on me when she was a diabetic. She was also a type 1. One of the things that she was always harping on me is to, if I ever wind up in a jam, to contact the American Diabetes Association, which I just did before I jumped up on here to do the video. So, spoke with that lady. Of course, they can't, provide any funding or anything like that. They take, not give, basically. That's okay. At least they're a resource, that I could call and talk to. And she sent me, emailed me information about possible help, things like copay assistance, deductible assistance, which is great because if I don't qualify for Medicaid once I get up there to Minnesota, if I don't qualify for Medicaid and wind up having to be on the regular insurance, then I can see about getting assistance for all that. Let's face it, those deductibles are pretty expensive. And I'm basically winding up back in the same situation with being somebody that's considered to be out of pocket, which of course with Mayo Clinic they require a $5,000 deposit. So here I sit again, same boat. So I'm like, okay, that's a glimmer of hope. Don't know, I have to actually read through it and so forth yet. I can let you all know tomorrow what I find out. But at least it's a glimmer of hope, Also, assistance with possibly, making sure that I get my medications, my prescriptions filled, so on and so forth. So it's like, okay. As far as, the medications are concerned, basically the syringes and insulins are concerned, I'm good there. It's just the sensors. I did... if anybody else is in the same situation with losing insurance or one form or another, if you wind up in that situation, because these sensors are expensive, depending on the pharmacy that you're going with, the minimum that you can pay per sensor is $150, and they only last for 2 weeks. And it doesn't matter if it's Freestyle or Dexcom. That's the only two that are out there. And I'm talking about the ones that are prescription only. The ones that they have released that are over the counter are more for passive monitoring. It isn't the more intense monitoring that we need. Okay, so I want to make sure that that's clarified. So anyway. If you wind up in the same situation that I did, okay, call the company, call Dexcom, call Freestyle, explain to them the situation, and you can qualify for a voucher to which basically it looks like insurance information, and you take it to your pharmacy, and you get you get 2 of them per month at a discounted rate. Initially, what was told to me over the phone was 2 for $75 a month, which isn't that bad. But then once I got to the pharmacy, I found out, and they ran it, it was actually 2 for $39.99. That is huge. But with the financial situation that I have been in, I've had to let it go a little bit. So, but once I was able to get the money together, and we're only talking, like maybe a few days, I made that, no matter what, I made that my top priority. Because trying to judge things, with how you feel, a lot of times it's not accurate. and then, basically in some ways you're wasting test strips, and wasting time with having to be pulling over to the side of the road to, especially in my line of work, doing all of that and everything. It really could be difficult at times. Whereas, with the sensors, I just whip out. Most people, they just have it, the app through their phone. If they have the technology where the scanning technology, basically it's Google Pay, Apple Pay technology, the same technology that you use for that. But unfortunately, with me buying cheap phones, I don't have that, so I have an actual reader, and I just pull that out, scan, and I know instantly where my blood sugar is at. So. But yeah, if you know somebody who ends up in the same situation, tell them, either go tell them, or you yourself go to call those companies, Freestyle or Dexcom, and explain the situation. Don't have insurance, and then you can get them for a discounted price. I actually just I found out one of my friends also became a diabetic. He's type 2, and I gave him that info. He does have insurance, but it's like I told him, you can always tell them, hey, I don't have insurance. Just go to another pharmacy. So in that way, the pharmacist isn't feeling compelled that they have to let your your insurance company know. Okay, try it. It's worth it. But because he's paying the 2 for $75. And if you can get it for 2 for $39, hey, it could be worth it. And it's good for a whole year. And after that, it gets extended or what have you. Also, if you wind up in the situation, as far as your insulins are concerned, let the pharmacy know. And they usually, I found out that they offer discounts. Basically kind of the same thing. So, like with my Lantus, I was looking at paying almost $200 a bottle for a bottle of Lantus. But with running it through, but they have a program where they can run it through, and it's now showing $35. So that's not bad. So, but with going through the ADA, the American Diabetes Association, I might be able to, that they provide resources to assist with those co-pays. Basically, that's what it boils down to, is you're paying co-pays. So, yeah. Make sure you check things out and so forth. Try and follow all avenues as much as you possibly can, especially when you're dealing with something like diabetes, especially type 1. You might be able to slide with type 2, but type 1, no, you can't. So, yeah. We're considered to be more, it's funny because I've lived with it my whole life. My mom being type 1, and then I was a hypoglycemic, and then when I became a type 1, for me, it's just like no big deal. But when I tell people, especially medical personnel, when I tell them I'm type 1, everybody just goes, oh my gosh. What's the big deal? I'm like, what's the big deal? Because I've lived with it my whole life, so, one way or another. So it's like, okay, whatever, no sweat off my back, no biggie. So, but anyway, I wanted to make sure I pass along that information as well. Whoa, okay, tightness of chest, pain, right here where my thumb is at, just all of a sudden, whoa. Okay, so anyway, I think I should probably let you guys go, and it takes a while for these videos to get uploaded as well. So anyway, I love you guys, and fingers crossed that we can keep this ball rolling and so forth. I'm really looking forward to going up there and getting some help and everything, and I'll talk to you all soon. I'll keep you all posted as best I can, especially with the crappy internet service I have here, okay? I'll talk to you all soon. Love you guys.